Chapter 1842. Yi Qinghan was certain that the Central Earth Holy Nation had allied with so many people to destroy one world after another. As for what that motive was, only the Holy Nation of the Central Earth's Holy Nation knew. However, his ultimate goal was to transcend the Eternal Realm. The Eternal Realm. They all know that the Eternal Realm is the end, yet they still want to transcend. It's true that the stronger a person is, the more dissatisfied they are. Yi Qinghan groaned and jumped into the lake with Lin Wutan. Under the lead of the octopus, they rushed into the lake. At the bottom of the lake, it was just as the xenogeneic octopus had said. There were many steels, and the words were strange and difficult to understand. The broken steels were scattered all over the place. Many of the steels had been broken, and they were all incomplete. It would be difficult to fix them. Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutan quickly collected the broken steels. Naturally, they wouldn't let go of the complete steels. The two of them were like locusts passing through. Not even a blade of grass grew. Aside from the steels, the other divine herbs had already been drowned. Without air and sunlight, no living creature could survive here, except for water-type creatures like the octopus. The large water-type creatures were all eaten by the octopus, so the bottom of the lake was very safe. The two of them strolled around, wasting more than 10 days. With the help of the octopus, they collected all the steels in the underwater world and returned to the surface of the lake. Mining this mineral vein, we need to be faster. Yi Qinghan came to an independent island and picked all the 16-grade divine herbs. After picking a few 15-grade divine herbs, he divided the rest of the herbs among the others. The various experts rushed to the island and divided the herbs among themselves. Then they began to mine. With more than 100 low-level experts working together, they could even dig up the heavens beyond heaven, let alone a mineral vein. There was no need for Yi Qinghan to do anything. The gold-devouring toad cooperated with them and excavated a large amount of mineral resources. The gold-devouring toad ate a portion, and the rest were taken by Yi Qinghan. The ones below 15 grade were all given to the experts of the various sections. This was the first time that the members of the heaven-crushing army had received money that they had worked so hard to earn. They were all inexplicably happy. Money that had been stolen and money that they had earned themselves were indeed different. Moreover, they had the most experts, so they would receive the most resources. Yi Qinghan looked at the countless rank 16 resources and grinned in excitement. Now that he had the rank 16 True Dragon Fire Marrow, he could forge rank 16 Sacred Treasures, which were weapons that could only be used by middle-level cultivators. As long as it was combined with rank 16 Occult Law, it would have its own attack attribute. Under the same level, who could be a match for Kuang Zone? What had originally been a sizable island had been dug into a deep pit. Yi Qinghan only brought everyone away when there were no more materials left. As they got closer and closer to the depths, more and more people from the powerful sects arrived. Naturally, the area they could move about in became smaller and smaller. When they reached the depths, the people from the powerful sects had already gathered. They were not like Zhang Shaoshan, who had only brought a small group of disciples to train. They were very scattered and could not even defeat the powerful small sections. Every powerful sect had more than 10 low-level experts. Some of the powerful sects were not inferior to the Holy Lands. They had many powerful disciples, and there were also a few low-level kings among the younger generation. Some of the powerful sects were like the Holy Lands, where the top 10 of the younger generation were all low-level experts. Any one of them could easily sweep through a region. The older generation's low-level experts did not even have a chance to speak in front of them. Old people should get lost. This is the world of the younger generation. If you dare to block the way again, I will kill you without mercy. A disciple from a powerful sect held a divine sword and pushed back a veteran low-level expert. The elders from the small sects were red with anger, but there was nothing they could do. Their talents were not as good as the disciples from the powerful sections. Although their cultivation was higher, the occult law they used was not small. They could not resist the disciples from the powerful sections. Boom! Battles were happening all the time. For the sake of treasures, blood flowed like rivers. Powerful disciples from the small sects were easily annihilated. The blood of experts was cold. Every King Realm expert was stepping on corpses to advance. Scholar Shershua looked at the scene and became even more excited. He could not help but lick his lips. If it were not for Yi Qinghan holding him back, he would have rushed up and fought with those young kings. Boom, boom, boom. The earth shook and dust flew. The immortal spirit's sacred grass was trampled to pieces. A large group of people rushed towards the insane sect. The leader was a powerful young man wearing the Red Water sect's uniform. A water dragon coiled around his body, making him look like an emperor. His aura was extraordinary and definitely surpassed Qi Shuihan's. Behind him sat a peerless beauty. The young man was handsome and had deep eyes. He rode on a ferocious beast that was dozens of meters tall. He looked down at Yi Qinghan and the others. His gaze swept past Qi Shuihan and he frowned. 12th Martial Uncle, why are you with this group of people? Qi Shuihan was frightened. He was really afraid that his martial nephew would fight with Yi Qinghan. He hurriedly introduced, Sect Master Yi, this is the chief disciple of my Red Water sect, the direct disciple of the sect master, Guisu. He's the #1 expert of the younger generation in our sect. He's a bit arrogant, please don't mind him. Yi Qinghan nodded and did not say anything. Qi Shuihan looked at Guisu's cold expression and secretly transmitted a message to remind him, Martial nephew, this is the sect master of Insane Sect, Yi Qinghan. Don't look down on him just because he's a Sector Lord 9th layer. Yi Luhen of the Fierce Army couldn't even resist after being kicked by him. His nephew, Lin Wutian, could kill householder Shershue in one strike. This group of people is very crazy, let's not provoke them. Guisu frowned and frowned. No matter how strong and arrogant he was, he didn't dare to say that he could instantly kill householder Shershue. Who didn't know that the Fierce Army was very strong? Yi Luhen was also an overlord of a region, but he couldn't even block one strike. After a few comparisons, he knew that he wasn't Yi Qinghan's opponent. So it's Sect Master Yi. I'm Guisu of the Red Water sect. Greetings, Mr. Yi. Guisu was very smart. He immediately stepped down from the ferocious beast and cupped his fists. Yi Qinghan responded with a smile and said, Fellow Taoist Gua, you're too polite. We're all young people, so there's no need to be so restrained. If you don't mind, we can join forces to explore this secret realm. Of course. There are a lot of resources in this secret realm. We can't take them all by ourselves. Moreover, we've already entered the white-hot stage. If we don't have a few trustworthy factions to join forces with, we really don't know if we can leave this secret realm alive, Guisu said with a smile. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently and said, I like to deal with smart people. Since that's the case, let's join forces. We'll take the bigger share, and you guys will take the smaller share. Any objections? Guisu's breath stagnated. He looked at Qi Shuihan and nodded. He then replied, It's all up to Sect Master Yi. At this time, the people from the Tai Lai sect and Mount Longhu also came. However, the people from Mount Longhu were more aggressive. They came up to Yi Qinghan to show off their strength. However, the person who attacked didn't even have time to get close before a sword light pierced his throat. Yi Qinghan didn't move at all. Lin Wutian's sword had already returned to its scabbard. Note: flight is not allowed in Eternal World. This is explained from the very beginning. This is due to the suppression of the heavenly Tao. With the exception of eternal sovereigns and upper-level cultivators who can fly for a short period of time, the others can only rely on their divine powers to charge forward and leap with their fleshly body. Relying on explosive power to leap into the sky is something that cannot be broken. Given how high the cliff is and how far away it is, in order to cross it, one will need to build a bridge and build a ship. Naturally, the lower-level cultivators of the water system can walk on water. I can't figure out why cultivators are afraid of falling to their deaths. I feel like I don't have enough IQ to explain this. An ordinary person can fall to their death from a height of 10 meters, but it definitely can't kill an expert. However, since you can't fly in this great world, the gravity is definitely different. 100 meters high cliff can at least kill a realm lord. 1,000 meters deep cliff can at least kill a lower-level cultivator. This is why I built a bridge. Next time, if you don't understand, you can ask. There's no need to attack in the book review section. Chapter 1843. Boom. The corpse fell from the sky, and blood splattered on the ground, dyeing the mountain rocks red. This. The experts who approached sucked in a breath of cold air. Guisu's expression changed slightly. From this sword strike, it could be seen that Lin Wutian's cultivation was definitely higher than his. The expressions of the people from Mount Longhu changed drastically, and Long Lu frowned as he looked at them. Who told you to attack Sect Master Yi? Can't you see that I'm standing here? Do you think I'm dead? Long Lu rebuked angrily. Mount Longhu had lost a low-level cultivator, and Long Lu felt a little pained. Most importantly, this low-level cultivator had died unjustly. He did not even know how he died. The people from Mount Longhu were so scared that they did not dare to make a sound. The young man in the lead frowned and said unhappily, "Sixth uncle, I heard that you were captured, so I came to save you. How did I offend you?" Long Lu snorted and said, "Do I look like I was captured? I just followed Sect Master Yi for a period of time. Before Big Brother came, he specifically told you to keep a low profile in the secret realm. Why didn't you listen?" "Sixth uncle, I was meddling in other people's business. However, your friend killed an elder of Mount Longhu. It's not over just by apologizing. You're also the sixth leader of Mount Longhu. What do you think we should do?" The young man in the lead was the son of the leader of Mount Longhu, Long Chen. He was usually arrogant and domineering, but his cultivation was indeed not bad, and his talent was also very good. He had received the true teachings of several leaders. Half of the 9 leaders of Mount Longhu were no match for him, so he had developed a habit of being arrogant. Long Lu frowned. He was worried that Yi Qinghan would not be so patient, so he immediately reprimanded, "Chen, if Xie Zilong didn't make the first move, the people from the eccentric sect wouldn't have made a move. He's courting death, so he can't blame others. After I get out, I'll report today's matter to Big Brother. Take your people and leave first." Long Chen stared at Long Lu angrily and asked coldly, "Sixth uncle, are you trying to betray Mount Longhu? How dare you?" "Long Chen, is this the attitude you should have when you talk to sixth uncle?" Long Lu said angrily. Long Chen said with disdain, "Sixth uncle, I only called you sixth uncle because I respect you. Otherwise, how are you worthy of being called sixth uncle? My father only gave you the position of sixth elder because he saw that you've been roaming the world with him since you were a child and founded Mount Longhu. In terms of cultivation, you're the weakest among the 9 elders. In terms of aptitude, you can't even compare to the majority of the younger generation of Mount Longhu. Today, a brother of Mount Longhu was killed, yet you actually spoke up for an outsider. Since that's the case, I'll expel you from Mount Longhu on behalf of my father." Long Lu's aura stagnated. He was so angry that he didn't know what to say. Yi Qinghan and the others did not say anything and allowed Long Chen to behave atrociously. Those who understood the might of the arrogant sect, such as Zhang Shaoxin, householder Shi Shui, and Guisu from the Redwater sect, would not remind Long Chen, who did not want the other powerful sects to fight and injure each other so that they could benefit from it. Long Lu was so angry that his entire body trembled. However, Long Chen was still disdainful as he said coldly, "Brothers of Mount Longhu, the 6th elder has already betrayed us. He thinks that he's still from Mount Longhu, so follow me. If you're willing to follow Long Lu, I won't force you. However, once we leave the secret realm, Mount Longhu will naturally clean up the sect." The realm lord-level powerhouses who were originally following Long Lu all turned to Long Chen in an instant. There were a total of more than 2,000 people. However, nearly half of them were killed by the mutant octopus last time. Now there were only a few left. More than 1,000 people crossed the arrogant sect's territory without hesitation and entered the crowd of Mount Longhu. Mount Longhu was still powerful. As disciples of Mount Longhu, they knew best that they did not want to be dealt with later. Yi Qinghan glanced at Long Lu and asked indifferently, "Do you want me to help you deal with them?" When Long Lu heard this, he hurriedly shook his head and said, "Thank you for your kind intentions, Sect Master Yi. Long Chen's thoughts don't represent my big brother's thoughts. I'll explain it to him when I get out. Please show mercy, Sect Master Yi. After all, He's my nephew. Yi Qinghan snorted. He glanced at Long Chen with a cold gaze and said coldly, "Take your people and get lost. I'll spare your lives today for Long Lu's sake. You won't be so lucky next time." Long Chen glanced at the people of the arrogant sect. There were so many small sects following them, and there were also other strong sects protecting them. Naturally, he was unwilling to make a move, so he said domineeringly, "It's a small world. We'll have the chance to meet again. I hope you still have the guts to say this next time." After saying this, Long Chen led the people from Mount Longhu and left forcefully. Long Chen took away more than 1,000 people from Mount Longhu, but Guisu brought more than 1,000 people. The total difference was not big. There were still about 10,000 miners, which was enough. The people of the Demon Dragon sect and the Tai Lai sect also gathered at this moment. They expressed strong dissatisfaction that Zhang Shaoxin and householder Shi Shui had brought their sect's powerhouses to join a small sect and did not get the lion's share of the benefits. They strongly requested to change the distribution and wanted to get the lion's share. The corners of Yi Qinghan's mouth curled up. He looked coldly at Zhang Shaoxin and householder Shi Shui and said, "Those who don't want to work for me can leave. I'm not unreasonable. You've been with me for so long, and I've never treated you unfairly. I can also pretend that the 1,000-year agreement from back then never happened." Zhang Shaoxin and householder Shi Shui had long been convinced by Yi Qinghan over the years. How could they want to leave? However, they could not dissuade the elders and powerhouses of their respective sections. They could only send their subordinates back to their sects and choose to follow Yi Qinghan alone. What an idiot! Shaoxin, my sect has cultivated you so much in vain. You're the dignified chief disciple, yet you're actually following a small sect that came out of nowhere. Your horizons are so limited. You can't be trained. When I return this time, I'll report to the sect master and strip you of your status as the chief disciple. The elder of the Tai Lai sect reprimanded coldly. After saying that, the elder of the Tai Lai sect also left, leaving Zhang Shaoxin dejected. Householder Shi Shui was used to being domineering, so the powerhouses of the Demon Dragon sect did not dare to say anything. They only took away the disciples of the Demon Dragon sect and quickly left. As a result, the number of miners of the Maniac sect instantly decreased by more than 3,000, leaving less than 6,000. It doesn't matter. Quantity is quality, not quantity. Moreover, with fewer miners, there will naturally be fewer people and more resources. I'm sure you'll be very happy. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. This was not bad. Now, the happiest ones were the small sections. If they followed Yi Qinghan, they would not be in any danger at all unless they encountered a middle-level cultivator. Furthermore, they would receive a lot of resources. The Maniac sect's standards were very high. They did not want any resources below 15th grade and even paid extra. Such a good thing would not happen again. Those who want to go, go. Those who don't want to go, follow us. Let's continue to go deeper. Yi Qinghan patted the head of the Purple Gold Tiger King and motioned for it to move forward. The Maniac sect led a large number of people and continued to go deeper. The gold-devouring toad kept on giving out warning sounds. It seemed that the mineral veins in the depths were really rich. Yi Qinghan quickly found a place and forcibly drove some of the cultivators away. The atmosphere suddenly became oppressive and tense, causing many of the powerful sects to be displeased. They stared at the Kuang Zone with unkind eyes. Chapter 1844. Get lost. An angry roar resounded through the sky. The Kuang Zone was extremely aggressive. No matter if it was a strong sect or a small sect, they would kick them out first. Some of the strong sects were stunned and were inexplicably swept out by the Kuang Zone's dauntless army. Large areas of mineral veins were occupied and guarded by strong cultivators. The sector lords began to harvest the resources. The high-class sacred items belonged to the Kuang Zone. As long as they harvested them, they would get a share of the salary. Everyone was in high spirits and had a strong sense of belonging. After the divine herbs were harvested, Yi Qinghan ordered all the strong cultivators to finish the battle quickly and start mining. Some of the strong sects paid special attention to the Kuang Zone and found that they were able to find the mineral veins accurately without wasting any time. They have the gold-devouring toad? A strong cultivator muttered to himself. Obviously, there was more than one force that had such suspicions. There were many strong sections. No one can pinpoint the exact location of the mineral veins for the sacred implement materials. These people must have the gold-devouring toad. Not interested in joining forces to kill the Guangzhong? I don't believe that this motley crew will sincerely join forces. Without benefits, they are just a bunch of bugs. As for the dauntless army, they are the ones who have real benefits. As long as we join forces, they will definitely follow us and rebel against the Guangzhong. A group of elders from the strong sects gathered and spoke without restraint. The Shanglan clan is willing to help. Is there anyone else who wants to help? A strong middle-aged man asked in a deep voice. The Yangtian Valley is willing to help. Whooshed, if more than 10 strong sects joined forces, even the sacred grounds would have to retreat, let alone the Guangzhong. In a short while, 8 strong sects declared that they were ready to suppress the Guangzhong and fight for the gold-devouring toad. As for the gold-devouring toad, everyone could share it temporarily. At this moment, the people from the Guangzhong were busy mining. They did not care about these people's little tricks behind their backs. If they really fought, they were not afraid of these people. The strongest point of the Guangzhong was not their high cultivation, but their fearlessness of death. Would these strong cultivators be willing to die? Would they dare to fight? Yi Qinghan quietly worked as the mine manager. He did not seem to pay attention to those outside cultivators. But in a dangerous place, how could he not pay attention? Yi Qinghan stared at the group of people as they gathered to discuss. This group of bastards actually dared to have designs on us. Do you want to kill them? The divine bird had a dignified appearance as it glared at the group of people and said. Yi Qinghan licked his lips and said in a low voice, strong sects are indeed strong sections. They won't be easy to deal with. Once they gather their forces, and with so many strong sects joining forces, they will far outnumber us. It won't be easy to fight them. We have a mid-level ferocious creature. Why should we be afraid of them? The divine bird said smugly. Yi Qinghan was taken aback at the mention of the mid-level mutated octopus. He had almost forgotten about it. He couldn't help but smile. Either we don't make a move this time, or we wipe out all the nearby forces in one fell swoop. Yi Qinghan said with a cold glint in his eyes. The ferocious expression made the divine bird tremble, and it hurriedly gave a flattering smile. Boom-da-whoosh. Just as the mine was being mined halfway, there was a deafening explosion. Golden light filled the sky, as though a treasure had appeared. Sect leader Yi, there's a treasure! Qi Shuihen suddenly shouted. Shua! Yi Qinghan quickly rushed to the mine. In the depths of the mine, countless sector lord-level experts had been killed. Even the experts on the periphery had been knocked unconscious. Some of the lower realms were in a daze, their faces full of fear. What's going on? Yi Qinghan immediately asked. There's a divine weapon inside. I can't tell what grade it is, but it contains a special pressure. It should be from the previous civilization. Qi Shuihen immediately said. Yi Qinghan stepped into the mine entrance. Many injured people supported each other as they walked out. Their bodies were covered in blood, and their eyes were full of fear and despair. The cave was dazzling with golden light, and the pressure spread out in all directions. One day Yi Qinghan held the Rui bell and stepped in. However, the Rui bell kept on vibrating. It was as though the ceiling was about to collapse. Its sword intent. Yi Qinghan immediately felt a special sword aura. It was very similar to the sword intent emitted by the Green Lotus sword song. It made one's hair stand on end. Wutian, come and condense your sword intent. See if you can calm the divine weapon inside. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He didn't dare to force his way in. Otherwise, if the mountain collapsed, he would be buried alive. Lin Wutian quickly walked over and put his palms together. His entire body emitted sword aura. A green lotus appeared in his palm, emitting a dense holy aura. It kept on rushing into the mine. Hummed at the sound of a sword came out from the cave, majestic and mighty. Hua! The surrounding sand and stones were swept up and smashed into the stone walls. The stone walls were penetrated. Lin Wutian suddenly lost consciousness and walked into the cave with a confused expression. Gu Qingyu and the others hurriedly reached out to hold him, but Yi Qinghan stopped them. Don't worry. It should be the divine weapon inside calling him. The sword intent emitted by him and the divine weapon has a will. It should be inherited, Yi Qinghan said solemnly. Don't. Lin Wutian walked deeper into the cave. The light in the cave became thicker and thicker. The profound laws filled the air. The sword aura was so strong that the sword experts didn't dare to draw their swords. There were sector lord level miners lying everywhere in the cave. Most of them were just unconscious. Only the weakest were dead. Their souls were shaken to death. There was also a group of people who were scared to death by the sword aura. The divine sword in the cave was at least a high-grade holy artifact. It was very likely that it was personally forged by an eternal sovereign. It contained supreme power. Hummed at the sound of the sword became more and more urgent. The ground rumbled and the mountain shook. It could collapse at any time. Lin Wutian involuntarily stepped into the depths. It was a tomb. However, the miners had unconsciously opened it up. A divine sword was inserted in front of the tombstone, emitting golden light. Whooshed just as Lin Wutian appeared, a low voice resounded in his sea of consciousness. You're finally here, the inheritor I've been waiting for countless years. Don't throw away the soul of Green Lotus Sword song. Boom. Hua! The divine sword suddenly shone with golden light. It was so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. Lin Wutian was in a daze. Then, the divine sword rushed into his sea of consciousness and turned into a sharp sword hanging at the top of the dome. It could slash down at any time and destroy thousands of miles. Boom, boom. The ground trembled. The mountain peak was on the verge of collapsing. Wutian, come out quickly. Yi Qinghan roared. Whoosh! Lin Wutian was awakened by Yi Qinghan's words and quickly rushed out. Boom! The moment Lin Wutian came out, the entire mountain collapsed. Hundreds of experts were buried alive. They had already lost consciousness. Now, they would die without a doubt after being smashed like that. With so many experts, if they could kill them all, there would be a lot of resources and wealth in their storage rings. What an idiot! How dare you spout nonsense when you don't understand the situation? The divine bird mocked in disdain. Yi Qinghan licked his lips and revealed a sinister smile that sent chills down everyone's spine. Kill. I support you. Scholar Shi Shui smiled evilly. All right, I'll leave the sector lords to you. The resources in their hands, you can take however many you kill. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and said, no problem. My demon dragon sect isn't afraid of them. Scholar Shi Shui was indeed the master of the bloodthirsty force. She agreed without hesitation. Yi Qinghan looked at Lin Wutian and asked in a low voice, can you deal with them alone? Lin Wutian waved his hand and the divine weapon he got from the mountain appeared in his hand. It emitted an earth-shaking pressure as if it could shatter the world when it was unsheathed. Don't worry. I only need one sword. It's enough. I don't need the little slave beast's help, Lin Wutian said aggressively. Yi Qinghan smiled, his eyes raking through the warriors. He stretched his voice and said, then, let's start. The divine sword was unsheathed. Sword chi shot up to the sky. Green lotuses bloomed, which could take people's lives from 1,000 meters away. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Lin Wutian was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. His aura shot up to the sky as he entered the group of lower realm warriors. He killed one with each step. Blood flowed like a river. His sword chi carried a destructive will. No one could resist his sword. Boom, bang. Some warriors managed to block it in time, but they were even more desperate. The pseudo-sacred weapons in their hands could not block the sword. They were split open or pierced through. Screams of pain could be heard. Many people began to scream in fear as they tried to escape. Some of them wanted to break through Lin Wutian's defense and kill the crazy sect. Yi Qinghan's foot slightly staggered, and power rose from the ground and gathered at his waist. It traveled through his limbs and bones, and finally gathered at the center of his right fist. Flames burned in his eyes, and the flames of a true dragon flickered in his eyes. When he saw an expert charging at him, he stomped his foot, causing the ground to crack. Boom! Hum! Yi Qinghan's iron fist rushed out like a whirlpool with dragon-shaped flames. The terrifying temperature burned the opponent's pseudo-sacred weapon into nothingness. Boom! The warrior watched as the pseudo-sacred weapon in his hand turned into molten iron and fell to the ground. His right arm disappeared from the impact. The piercing pain shrouded his soul. He could not help but howl to the sky. Bang! Whoosh! A punch pierced through the chest of a lower realm warrior. His body was torn apart and blood dyed the mountains and rivers red. Yi Qinghan retracted his fist as if he had never attacked. His face was expressionless. The lower realm warriors were drenched in cold sweat. One punch to kill a lower realm warrior. This was the power of a middle realm warrior. Dead silence. The lower realm warriors of the smaller sects were all stunned. They looked at Yi Qinghan in horror. Lin Wutian was able to sweep through the lower realm because of his realm and the support of his sacred weapon. This was equivalent to a professional player bullying an amateur player. However, Yi Qinghan was a 9th-level sector lord and he was able to sweep through the lower realm. This was equivalent to an amateur player beating a professional player. No one could accept this. Scholar Shi Shui was shocked by Yi Qinghan. Her Dao heart was almost shattered. She even forgot to attack. If you still don't make a move, all the sector lord level cultivators will escape. Yi Qinghan lightly reminded. Scholar Shi Shui woke up. She realized that the sector lord warriors had abandoned the elders of the various sects and families. They had all escaped. She immediately pulled out her sword and chased after them. It was easy for a lower realm warrior to kill a sector lord. It was even easier than a middle realm warrior killing a lower realm warrior. Xiu xiu xiu. Scholar Shi Shui began to devour lives. She was like a human meat grinder. She swept across 1,000 meters. The crazy sect people did not pay much attention to the battle. Instead, they ordered the smaller sects to dig out the mountain and save the injured. The smell of blood filled the air. Screams filled the air. Lin Wutian was like the sun in the sky. He killed more than 100 lower realms without any resistance. He basically killed one person with one sword. Their eyes were filled with despair and unwillingness when they died. I thought middle realm warriors were not allowed to appear. Many people died with their eyes wide open. They screamed in despair. Crazy sect, you dare to challenge the rules. You will die a horrible death. The remaining people had no hope of escaping. They could only curse in despair. Puchi. Lin Wutian was emotionless. His sword swung in all directions. The green lotus sword's song swept across with destructive sword chi, reaping the lives of the people. Every corpse was perfectly preserved. Only the throat or heart had a thin sword wound. Fresh blood gradually flowed out. Chapter 1846. Lin Wutian single-handedly swept through hundreds of experts. No one was able to contend against him. His cultivation realm and battle prowess far surpassed countless people of the same realm. Lin Wutian might even be able to contend against Xia Jiulong. Even if he couldn't, he would be able to do so after 3,000 to 5,000 years. As time passed, surpassing Xia Jiulong wouldn't be a problem. The corpses piled up. The distance between each corpse was less than 20 meters. Some were even 3 to 5 meters apart. One could see how long Lin Wutian needed to kill a lower-level realm expert. Indeed, after killing the last expert, Lin Wutian sheathed his divine sword. His face was calm as if he had just killed some ants. Yi Qinghan nodded silently. Lin Wutian's strength was already not bad. However, compared to the young eternal sovereigns, he was still lacking. Lin Wutian's face was filled with excitement. He was like a child asking for credit. He walked over with a face full of smiles. Yi Qinghan smiled. With a wave of his hand, he released the star-twining vine. With so many experts' corpses, there was an endless amount of blood essence energy. He couldn't waste it. Xiu 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 at the star-twining vine devoured the flesh and blood of the experts. 30 to 50 vines coiled around the corpse of a lower realm expert, while 3 to 5 vines coiled around the corpse of a sector lord, absorbing the energy with all their might. Countless vines turned blood red, and one could even see blood flowing and gathering at the main vine. The star-twining vine was like a bottomless pit. It absorbed the blood essence of the corpses while collecting the storage rings. It sent them all to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan only needed to be responsible for collecting the storage rings. The hard work was naturally left to the star-twining vine. The star-twining vine was so excited that its main vine jumped. At this moment, Scholar Shui had killed close to 1,000 sector lords. The rest had already escaped. The lopsided battle had ended. Scholar Shui was overjoyed as she rummaged through the corpses of the sector lords. She kept all the storage rings in her arms. The other small sects were envious and regretful. If they had fought together with Scholar Shui, the life savings of these sector lords would have been theirs. Yi Qinghan did not intend to kill them all, so he did not stop them as he watched them escape. At this time, the disciples of the small sects had already moved the collapsed mountain away, saving more than 10 sector lords who were hiding in the cracks. There was also a group of heavily injured experts. About 80 people had died, and they were all disciples of the small sections. Report the number of deaths, names, sex, and families. We'll give you the settlement allowance later. Yi Qinghan looked at the deformed corpses and couldn't help but sigh. It was really hard to accept losing so many people at once. She was young yet beautiful, as if a brand new life was being born. Her skin was as white as jade, and her entire person was like a porcelain doll. She was Guisu's childhood sweetheart, and they had been engaged since they were young. They had been inseparable all these years, and their relationship was very good. At this moment, Zhang Yuhan looked at Guisu with a puzzled face and then looked at Yi Qinghan. She always felt that Guisu was the strongest among his peers. No one could compare to him. That kind of blind worship came from love. Cough cough. It's okay. We won't provoke this abnormal person in the future. You look after him and stay away from him, Guisu whispered. Yi Qinghan glanced at the two indifferently and shrugged. He then shifted his gaze to the deep pit. A place where a divine weapon was born must be a big grave. Open the grave. Everyone be careful. A real big grave has a lot of traps. Step by step. We have a lot of time, but we only have one life, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Then, Yi Qinghan led Lin Wutian forward to look at the tombstone. It didn't look like a big grave. The tombstones were very short. It was only because the earth's crust moved that this grave was covered by a tall mountain. The grave was somewhat distorted and the tombstones were almost broken. Yi Qinghan searched carefully and found a set of skeletons. They hadn't rotted yet and were still emitting the profound mysteries of the laws. They should have been top experts before they died. Yi Qinghan quickly deduced, the owner of this divine sword should be this set of skeletons. If I'm not wrong, this person was seriously injured when he escaped and hid in the grave. Finally, he exhausted his strength and put the last of his will into the divine sword. As for this person's identity, he should be the disciple or son of the great Shang world's creator. Lin Wutian thought for a moment and nodded. This sword indeed has the inheritance of the Green Lotus Sword Song. Chapter 1847. Inside the secret realm, the atmosphere was murderous. Occasionally, a roar could be heard from the depths of the secret realm. Yi Qinghan had already led the crowd into the depths of the secret realm. It was time to fight for the strongest resources. In some dangerous places, middle-level monsters would appear from time to time. They could easily destroy the heavens and the earth, killing and injuring countless powerhouses. Yi Qinghan was very lucky. So far, he had not met anyone from the sacred ground, nor did he meet any upper-level monsters. Otherwise, this group of people would not be able to survive. Just as the bloody battle was going on inside the secret realm, the atmosphere outside the secret realm was also extremely oppressive. In the sky-reaching school, the powerhouses of the top 3 schools were staring at Fazhen Overlord. There was only one Fazhen Overlord. In terms of numbers, he had an absolute advantage. In terms of cultivation, he did not necessarily have an advantage. At this moment, he stood in the camp of the Kuang sect and waited alone. He had no intention of leaving. Xia Jiulong stood aside and watched the show. The others would not interfere. The dean of the interception school, Wen Su, was a genius of the same era as Fazhen Overlord. He alone could fight against Fazhen Overlord. Wen Su's face was flushed red. His aura and immortal techniques filled the air. He had an immortal aura that made people involuntarily want to submit to him. At this moment, his eyes were filled with divine light. He stood not far from the camp of the Kuang sect and stared at Fazhen Overlord. There were two elders next to Wen Su. They were both at the top of the upper level. Any one of them could destroy an area. These two were none other than Hong Courtyard and Dao Courtyard of Transcending Heaven Cult's three great courtyards. The old man from Dao Courtyard was the strongest. His aura was profound, making it impossible for others to see through him. He had complete control over Taoist techniques. One technique could derive 10,000 techniques, and 10,000 techniques were natural. He was a supreme existence under the eternal sovereign realm. People called him Nine Extreme Taoist. The Hong School studied the extremes of heaven, earth, and man. The dean of the Hong School was called Wanhong Holy Man Wen Su, Wanhong Holy Man, and Jiuji Taoist priest were the disciples of the Sky Reaching School. Once the three supreme powerhouses appeared, no one dared to fight against them. Xia Jiolong was in a high position. But when he met the three of them, he always had to treat them like a disciple. Fazhen, you have escaped for so many years. It's time to go to the cave of punishment with me. Wen Su bowed and said in a deep voice, "What crime have I committed? Even if I'm guilty, do you have the right to judge me?" Fazhen held the deity-slaying sword with a murderous look on his face. If it wasn't for the fact that there were so many of them, he would have attacked long ago. What crime? When you were the left guardian of the heavenly demon cult, you massacred 3,000 cities, burned 1 trillion lives, and killed countless people. This is a crime. The heavenly reaching church upholds the order of the world, and as the enforcers, we have the right to judge. Lord Fazhen, you will be executed today. On account of your many years of cultivation, I will spare your life as long as you sincerely repent and use 10,000 years to make up for your mistakes. Otherwise, I will kill you today. Wanhong Holy Man of the Grand Courtyard replied silently. Ha! Fazhen Demon Ancestor laughed out loud and looked at the experts within 1,000 miles in disdain. He asked coldly, "May I ask which one of you doesn't have hands stained with blood? Wanhong, Wen Su, Jiuji, have the three of you never killed anyone? Don't you have a single person who died in vain? A general success is built on 10,000 corpses. If that's the case, then wouldn't the Supreme Eternal Sovereign have committed a heinous crime?" Fazhen Demon Ancestor's voice was deafening. As soon as he said that, Wan Xiong's face changed. Only the Eternal Sovereigns would dare to say that the Supreme Eternal Sovereigns were right or wrong, and that they had sinned. How could they have the right to judge them? Fazhen, your words are too much. Xia Jiolong reprimanded coldly. Have I? They used such a ridiculous crime to convict me, and you, the Crown Prince of the Holy Empire of the Middle Earth, didn't even say a word. What right do you have to accuse me now? Fazhen Demon Ancestor questioned coldly. Is it because there's no one left in the heavenly demon cult, and you bully me because I'm old and powerless? Since you refuse to admit your crimes, then I will kill you in the name of revenge. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Buzz.GOG Taoist's immortal feather shot out a rainbow light that covered the sky. It contained the ultimate law of heaven and earth, and the rainbow light was like the descent of a deity, enveloping the insane sect. Hummed at the god-slaying sword was unsheathed, and the sword light whistled. It contained a trace of green lotus chi, and it swept across the area. However, it was fundamentally different from Lin Wutian's sword chi. Fashion's talent was exhausted, and even if he had the complete version of the green lotus sword song for him to comprehend, he would not be able to comprehend anything. Boom! The sword light and the immortal light collided, and the two of them fought in the blink of an eye. The energy rushed into the clouds, and it was impossible to distinguish their figures. Fortunately, the weakest cultivators outside the secret realm were in the middle level. The upper-level cultivators stood at the top of the mountain and watched the show. They were especially excited to see two supreme cultivators fight. Wanhong Holy Man and Wen Su did not attack, and they were only responsible for preventing him from escaping. They had absolute confidence in Jiu Taoist's strength. Boom boom boom. The supreme immortal spell went against the massacre sword Dao, and the middle-level cultivators were all shocked. A ray of sword light swept across the ground, and a mountain was flattened. The insane sect was razed to the ground. Boom. Rays of immortal light swept past, and immortal music attacked Fazhen Demon Lord Soul. The mysteries of the Tao continued to attack Fazhen Demon Lord. This was the supreme soul attack, and it had a purifying effect. Fazhen Demon Lord's sword was obviously a little stagnant, and there was something in his Tao heart that was suppressed. However, when the immortal light swept past, the mysteries of the Tao could break through the shackles, and he wanted to see the sun, but he could not break through the darkness. Jiu Taoist was indeed the pinnacle of the Tao. The stars moved, and he broke through the void, and turned into a huge hand that covered the sky. You have a demon in your heart, surrender. Boom. The huge hand formed by the Tao slammed towards Fazhen Holy Man. This roar shocked Fazhen Demon Lord, and he suddenly wanted to surrender. However, his main body instinctively pulled out his sword, and this pause gave Jiu Taoist a chance. Whoosh, his figure flashed, and a soft sword appeared in his hand. It broke through time and space, and appeared directly on Fazhen Demon Lord's neck. Immeasurable Heavenly Lord. Fazhen, you're not in the mood to fight. If you don't know your mistakes, why do you have to do this? Jiu Taoist said firmly. Fazhen Demon Lord did not understand what was going on. His face instantly aged 1,000 years, and the divine sword in his hand fell into the valley. His body fell, and he was pressed down into the valley by Jiu Taoist. Boom. Fazhen Demon Lord half knelt in the valley, and the god-killing sword beside him hummed softly, as if it wanted to wake its master up. However, he seemed to be very tired, and did not want to resist at all. I deserve it, and I'm willing to be executed. However, the insane sect has nothing to do with me, so don't make things difficult for them, Fazhen Demon Lord said in a low voice. When Su and the rest looked at each other and shook their heads. Before they came, they had already informed the disciples of the top 3 schools to kill any disciple of Fazhen Demon Lord. They were probably already dead. Chapter 1848. Outside the secret territory, the Supreme Masters were suppressed. Everyone had a new understanding of the top 3 schools of the Sky-Reaching School. Looking at the 3 of them, Fazhen Demon Lord knew that the Guangzong in the secret territory would go through a fierce battle and might even be destroyed. He could not help but sigh. He did not expect that the only person he was willing to protect would die because of him. However, Fazhen Demon Venerable would never have thought that Guangzong was already at the peak of his power in the secret land. Lin Wutian had even advanced to the Middle Realm, a unique Middle Realm expert. Even if the holy sons of the holy nations of the Central Region joined forces, they might not be able to defeat him, let alone the fact that Guangzong had gathered hundreds of Middle Realm experts around him, including Yi Qinghan. While the various forces in the Grand World were fighting, something big happened in the land of the 9 states. Shui Lin, the little girl that Yi Qinghan had suppressed in the Dragon Cauldron, now held the star chessboard in her hand and awoke from her sleep. Yi Qinghan's seal had also been torn to pieces by the star chessboard. Her cultivation had been enlightened by the star chessboard and had risen to the lower plane. Although she looked young, she had the power to destroy the 9 states. Although Desolate Lord Ye's cultivation level was not bad, he did not know what to do in the face of Lin Shui. Lin Shui looked at Desolate Lord Yi in confusion. She felt that he resembled Yi Qinghan, so she did not attack. Who are you? Where is Uncle Yi? Lin Shui asked with a frown. Phew. Desolate Lord Yi finally breathed a sigh of relief. If this little beauty did not know his father and attacked randomly, he was afraid that even if he joined forces with the 9 states experts, he would not be able to defeat her. Miss Shui, my father has entered the Grand World. Before he left, he sealed you in the Dragon Cauldron, hoping that you could escape from your enemies. I did not expect you to break the seal. Desolate Lord Yi smiled bitterly. Oh. Lin Shui looked up and nodded. So it's Big Brother. Take me to Uncle Yi. Desolate Lord Yi naturally knew that Shui Lin had a special identity and terrifying enemies. How could he allow her to enter the great world? He hurriedly stopped her. You should stay here for a while. My aunt has already gone to find my father. I think he will come back to find you when he is done. But Shui Lin's head was shaking like a rattledrum. How could she be willing to stay in such a remote and desolate small world? She wanted to enter the big world and cultivate until she reached the peak state. Desolate Lord Yi almost knelt down and begged. His mouth muttered, "Little ancestor," but Shui Lin was still stubborn. She turned and left. How could desolate Lord Yi have the ability to stop her? Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Shui Lin disappeared outside the imperial city and went straight to the entrance. Within the great world's heaven-shrouding mystic realm, the corners of Yi Qinghan's eyes twitched. However, they returned to normal in the blink of an eye. What is it? It actually made the corner of my right eye twitch. Yi Qinghan secretly frowned and muttered to himself. As the saying goes, when the left eye twitches, the right eye twitches for disaster. Why was his right eye twitching for no reason? Could it be a disaster? At this moment, Kuang Zong had already led the army step by step into the depths. In the heaven-shrouding mystic realm, 100 years had passed. However, the Shang dynasty was vast and boundless. They did not know where the borders were. They only knew that the deeper they went, the more dangerous it was. Those who could enter the depths were basically people from strong sects and holy lands. However, there were some individual cultivators who even the strong sects did not dare to provoke. In the heaven-shrouding mystic realm, the number one individual cultivator, the king of soldiers, Zhuo Shuguang. This person's strength made all the chief disciples of the strong sects feel powerless. He had a painting of mountains and rivers in his hand that could suppress supreme masters of the same level. With a wave of his hand, he could last for 1,000 years and no one could withstand 3 of his moves. It was rumored that Zhuo Shuguang had already comprehended the mysteries of heaven and earth. He could travel through mountains and rivers for thousands of miles and come and go without a trace. Now, he had already cultivated to the peak of the lower plane. Heaven and earth as his teacher, mountains and rivers as his body. One person with a painting, he could transform mountains and rivers with a wave of his hand. At this moment, he came over forcefully. Stepping on the painting of mountains and rivers, he could actually fly in the sky. His appearance was as divine as jade. It was so otherworldly that it attracted the attention of countless female cultivators. Emperor Yi looked up at Zhuo Shuguang flying across the sky and whispered to Yi Qinghan, "I have heard of this person. I heard that when some Holy Lands saints invited him to join their holy lands, he refused. His cultivation is very strong and his vision is very high. He is even unwilling to take an eternal as his teacher. He only wants to take heaven and earth as his teacher." It's okay. Since this kind of person takes heaven and earth as his teacher, his state of mind should be very clear. As long as we don't provoke him, he won't be our enemy. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Zhuo Shuguang stepped on mountains and rivers and went straight into the depths. He was very fast as if he had his own goal. When everyone saw Zhuo Shuguang leave, no one dared to block his path. They all moved aside. Even the elders of the strong sects had to retreat. They were unwilling to be his enemy. Only Xia Jiulong and he could have such power. Yi Qinghan shook his head slightly and continued to let the gold-devouring toad lead the way to find mineral veins. It was to lay a good foundation for the crazy sect's road to becoming a strong sect. However, less than an hour after Zhuo Shuguang appeared and left, a divine light rushed out from the depths. It was extremely dazzling. Then, a painting of mountains and rivers covered the sky, covering the sky and the sun. Its pressure covered thousands of miles. Even the crazy sect could clearly feel this person's strength. Screech! A ferocious bird with the vicissitudes of life rushed out from the danger zone and fought with Zhuo Shuguang. Boom! Swoosh! The painting of mountains and rivers painted with the vicissitudes of life and endless momentum. Rainbow light flashed constantly, making the strong cultivators unable to open their eyes. Roar! A low roar was deafening. The bird was a middle-realm ferocious creature. However, it could not gain the upper hand at this moment. Moreover, it was in the sky where it had the advantage. It showed how terrifying Zhuo Shuguang was. What a strong cultivation. Yi Qinghan looked from afar and said speechlessly. He's really strong within the same realm. I'm afraid that no one can be his opponent except for those in the middle realm. Gu Qingyu stared into the distance. He was confident that if he were to face such an existence, he would definitely lose. Let's go and see what kind of treasure would attract the ferocious bird's protection and make someone like Zhuo Shuguang covet it. Yi Qinghan rode the purple gold tiger king and quickly rushed into the depths. At this moment, not only the crazy sect was rushing there, but other powerful sects and clans were also rushing there. It was one thing to not want to provoke Zhuo Shuguang. However, when the benefits were enough, not even the saint could stop them, let alone Zhuo Shuguang. Boom! A large number of lower realm mounts carried the strong cultivators of the powerful sects and clans into the distance. The mountains and rivers were restless. In the distance, Zhuo Shuguang was even more excited. He desperately suppressed the ferocious bird and wanted to seize the treasure as soon as possible. The power of his attacks was getting stronger and stronger. Screeched out whoosh. A ray of light was like the dawn of the world. It was awe-inspiring and did not dare to look directly at it. The bird roared and retreated 1,000 meters away. However, it was still unwilling to let Zhuo Shuguang rush into its territory. Human, this is a forbidden area. Get lost. The ferocious bird roared, deafening. Chapter 1849. The ferocious beast roared. Another huge ferocious beast stepped on the mountain. It could travel more than 1,000 meters with a single leap. All the experts within 10,000 miles could feel the terrifying aura here. Zhuo Shuguang's battle had alarmed too many experts. Many people had heard the news and came over. Zhuo Shuguang saw so many experts approaching and stopped attacking. Instead, he stood to the side with no intention of leaving. Yi Qinghan traversed mountains and rivers, bringing Lin Wutian, Gu Qingyu, and Emperor Yi to a tall mountain. They looked at the place where the vicious birds were guarding. It was a short mountaintop, surrounded by precipitous cliffs. All four sides faced the sun, and there was a fiery red divine medicine swaying on the mountaintop. It was like a fire phoenix that was about to soar into the sky. The ferocious beast was also a fire-type bird. Its wings were fiery red and emitted a terrifying temperature. It could already control 16th grade divine fire, but it was still a little lacking compared to the fire essence of a true dragon. Since Yi Qinghan had discovered the fire-type godly herb, the others had naturally discovered it as well. They knew that it was a 16th tier godly herb, but it had yet to mature. Once it matured, the fire-type bird would be able to enter the upper level after consuming it. What a treasure! The divine bird exclaimed. What a treasure! No wonder Zhuo Shuguang is willing to fight with it to the death. At this time, the approaching experts exclaimed one after another. Their eyes were full of greed. With this divine medicine, as long as they entered the middle level in the future, they would definitely enter the upper level. How many upper-level experts could there be? Even the patriarchs of powerful sects were only upper-level experts. Zhuo Shuguang was a smart person. Now that so many experts had gathered, if the ferocious beast and the ferocious beast were both injured, it would not be his turn to snatch the divine medicine. It was better to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight, or wait for the others to leave before making a move. The experts of powerful sects were not stupid. They were not willing to take the lead and work for others. Therefore, at this moment, the surroundings were deathly silent. The fire-type bird was most afraid of Zhuo Shuguang. Otherwise, how could it be interested in a mere lower-level expert? Roar! A huge, ferocious beast approached. It climbed up the cliff like a nimble monkey. Its movements were vigorous and its speed was very fast. At this moment, it was already halfway up the mountain, causing the ferocious beast to scream angrily. Screeched that the ferocious beast roared, the mountains and rivers were shattered, and the ancient trees rustled. Should we fight for it? Gu Qingyu glanced at the experts all around him. It wouldn't be easy for a supreme king of the younger generation to snatch food from the mouths of these people. Yi Qinghan calmly said, "Of course we have to fight for it. How can we give up when we see a treasure? However, this monster looks quite young and probably doesn't know the Green Lotus Sword song." Therefore, Wutian can't intimidate it. So, there's no need to rush into action. Let's wait until both sides are injured. However, everyone was waiting for an opportunity, so no one made a move. Zhuguang looked around and finally fixed his eyes on Yi Qinghan and the others, especially Lin Wutian. Although he was standing at the back, it was impossible for Zhuguang not to see his cultivation level. Middle level? Didn't you say that middle-level experts are not allowed to enter the secret realm? Zhuguang muttered to himself and frowned. Once a middle-level cultivator appeared, it would be too troublesome. A middle-level cultivator was even more difficult to deal with than the saints. Lin Wutian's eyes were like lightning as he stared at Zhuguang. A battle intent surged from the bottom of his heart. However, he wanted to suppress his cultivation level to that of a lower-level cultivator. He didn't want to take advantage of Zhuguang. While the experts were hesitating, the melody resounded and a golden light shot out in all directions. A silhouette appeared in the sky from afar. Who said that a lower-level cultivator couldn't fly? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He could clearly see that the young man wasn't using any saint tool to support him. He was really relying on himself to fly. Just like a higher-level cultivator, he was slowly walking in the sky. The golden light under his feet was like a bridge, as if he was walking on flat ground. What a powerful young man! Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. This kind of person was the most difficult to deal with. A saint child was indeed a saint child. He definitely wouldn't lose to an existence like Xia Jiulong. Xia Jiulong was only a middle-level cultivator, but even an upper-level cultivator was afraid of him. One could imagine how strong he was. The difference between an upper-level cultivator and a middle-level cultivator was much greater than the difference between a middle-level cultivator and a lower-level cultivator. 300 to 500 lower-level cultivators could surround and kill a middle-level cultivator, but they couldn't threaten an upper-level cultivator. Emperor Ye's reincarnated golden body was a saint lord of a holy land. He couldn't not recognize the battle race's battle child. He quickly reminded, he is the battle race's battle child, Zhang Jiuxiao. He proved his Dao through battle. His combat strength is definitely comparable to a prince of the Central Earth Holy Empire. But before battle child, Zhang Jiuxiao, arrived, another rainbow rushed over from the west. Buddhist lights soared into the sky, and Buddhist chants resounded. It's the Arhat. This person's strength is unfathomable. He is one of the most likely eternal sovereigns among the younger generation. He is younger than Xia Jiulong by a generation. Others call him Little Jiulong. Emperor Ye's expression changed slightly. Two saint children, the Arhat and Zhuguang, had come at once. This fire-type sacred herb would be difficult to obtain. It's fine. Let's wait and see. I don't believe the Arhat and Zhang Jiuxiao will join forces to obtain a sacred herb. Yi Qinghan whispered. At this moment, the Arhat and Zhang Jiuxiao arrived at the same time. One bathed in holy light, while the other had boundless Buddhist dharma. It was a scene that forced everyone to avert their eyes. Boom! Just as the Arhat appeared not far from Yi Qinghan, the Rui bell in his sea of consciousness suddenly rang. It shook Yi Qinghan so much that he nearly fainted. He staggered and nearly fell off the purple gold Tiger King's back. Emperor Yi reached out to support Yi Qinghan. He asked in surprise, "Darling, what's wrong?" Yi Qinghan's consciousness was in a trance. He immediately mobilized his psyche to control the Rui bell and quickly recovered. He was secretly alarmed as he replied with a voice transmission, "It was the Arhat that caused the Rui bell in my body to react. But it's fine. The Arhat has not gained the Rui bell's recognition. He was only attracted by the orthodox Buddhist Dharma and attracted its attention." The Arhat did not pay attention to anyone else. The only ones that could make him wary were Zhang Jiuxiao and Zhuguang. The ferocious birds and beasts were even more fearful. A saint or the Arhat could fight against a mid-level master. Moreover, there was Zhuguang, who could fight against a mid-level master. Amitba. Evil creatures, treasures belong to those who are fated to obtain them. You actually dare to occupy a mountain and not retreat? Otherwise, this Buddha will convert you. The Arhat clasped his palms together. Buddhist light rushed in all directions, emitting a powerful aura. Yi Qinghan groaned. What kind of Buddha was this? If he wanted to snatch, he snatched. Why did he have to say such nonsense? Just hearing it made him unhappy. Zhang Jiuxiao and Zhou Shuguang sneered at the same time. It seemed that they already knew of Blessed Buddha Temple's ability to educate people. Screeched at the ferocious bird let out a long cry. Its fiery red wings flapped in the sky. It glared at the Arhat, not knowing how to refute such nonsense. The giant ferocious bird and ferocious beast looked at each other. They decided to work together to fight against the humans first. With a flick of its four limbs, it actually slapped down on a lower-level mountain, overlooking the two saints and Zhou Shuguang. Chapter 1850. The two ferocious beasts occupied a high vantage point, overlooking the crowd. Apart from Zhang Jiuxiao, the Arhat, and Zhou Shuguang, most of the experts slowly retreated. If they wanted to snatch something from the mouths of these three masters, they might not have the life to spend it. In the blink of an eye, 90% of the crowd had retreated. Only a few young masters refused to admit defeat and continued to defend. Yi Qinghan's group was no exception. Since they were here, they wanted a piece of the pie. It didn't matter if they were the Arhat or the Saint Child, this fire saint herb was theirs for the taking. Yi Qinghan and Yi Huang sat on the purple gold tiger king, while Lin Wutian and Gu Qingyu sat on the lion king, overseeing a mountain. The aura of the four attracted Zhang Jiuxiao's attention. When he stared at Lin Wutian, his eyes flashed. He frowned and muttered to himself, "Am I seeing things?" Since Xia Jiulong personally said that no mid-level cultivators were allowed to enter, then this person's cultivation. Is he pretending to be a mid-level cultivator? Zhou Shuguang was also puzzled at this moment. Lin Wutian was too young, looking like a 17 or 18-year-old boy. His eyes couldn't be wrong, too immature. How could he be a mid-level cultivator? The Arhat followed the two's gaze and looked at Yi Qinghan's group. However, he wasn't paying attention to Lin Wutian, but Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan and the divine bird were wanted by Blessed Buddha Temple. As the Arhat, how could he not know? Yi Qinghan. A little ant dares to come to Blessed Buddha Temple? Evil creature, you dare to pretend to be my supreme master? This Buddha originally didn't want to bicker with ants like you, but since we've met today, I'll kill you all. The Arhat's Buddhist aura soared to the sky. His Buddhist voice rumbled, deafening to the ears. Humph, Yi Qinghan snorted and didn't even bother to reply. Just a little bald donkey. This divine bird let a junior beat you up. You'll lose anyway. You actually dare to clamor with my master, you don't know your place. The divine bird scolded with disdain. Ha! Zhang Jiuxiao and Zhou Shuguang did not give him any face. Instead, they laughed loudly. Their voices were even louder, as if they had heard the funniest joke in the world. The Arhat was infuriated. His forehead was glowing and his handsome face was ferocious. Hairless brats can't be trusted. Go home and ask your father for some hair before you talk. At the very least, you should grow a beard. Looking at you now, why do I feel like you're a sissy? The divine bird cursed as soon as it opened its mouth. There were no dirty words, but it was unacceptable. Buzzed out whoosh. The Arhat was bathed in Buddhist light. He was like a blazing sun in the sky, making people unable to look at him directly. Vile creatures, since you are in such a hurry, this Buddha will fulfill your wish. The Arhat flew into a rage and roared, "The Dharma is boundless. Subdue the Dharma." A gigantic Buddha stood in the sky, his gigantic hand covering the sky. The Buddha's seal pressed down like the dome of heaven, making it impossible for anyone to resist. The force of the wind blew their hair back, and the divine bird was so frightened that it fled back into Yi Qinghan's arms. It was only responsible for infuriating the strong. As for attacking, it didn't have the ability to do so. Yi Qinghan did not move an inch. He did not even seem to have any intention of attacking. Lin Wutian unsheathed his sword. It was an ordinary divine sword, but when he used the green lotus sword song sword technique, it suppressed the heavens and destroyed the dome of heaven. Boom! The sword pierced through the Buddha's palm. The sword chi filled the air and went straight for the Arhat's body. Lin Wutian's realm had been suppressed to the lower plane, but he still had the combat power of a middle plane. The sword chi was unstoppable. It crashed into the Arhat's throat like a thunderbolt. The Arhat was shocked. He thought that the four of them were just ordinary lower plane cultivators. Even if they were kings, they would not be able to escape from his palm. That was why he had only used half of his strength. However, Lin Wutian's sword had broken through. It was impossible for him to use all of his strength in an instant. Bang! Buzz the Arhat waved his hand, and a Buddhist staff appeared in his hand. It shone with golden light and boundless dharma. It slammed into Lin Wutian's divine sword. Boom! Bang! The divine sword in Lin Wutian's hand broke, but the sword chi went through the Buddhist staff and hit the Arhat's chest. The Arhat's robe swayed with the dharma of Buddha, blocking most of the sword chi. However, a small part of the power still entered his body. Pumph! The Arhat's face turned pale. He could not help but groan. He took dozens of steps back to stabilize his chi and blood. Whoosh! Lin Wutian flew back and returned to the lion's back. He waved his hand and summoned the divine sword he had just obtained. He stared at the Arhat indifferently and said calmly, "You can't even get past me. What right do you have to attack my master?" The Arhat's chi and blood surged again. His eyes were full of anger and unwillingness. He had wanted to kill Yi Qinghan, but he had been stopped by a disciple. This was humiliating. "Bastard, how dare you blaspheme the power of Buddha? Do you think that you can talk nonsense just because you can block half of my strength? I'll show you what true strength is." The Arhat was furious. His body was still the same, but his aura was getting stronger. It was as if a real Buddha had descended. It was so majestic that no one dared to look at him directly. The Buddhist staff shook, and the world shone brightly. The Buddhist robe on his body carried the Dharma's dharma. Any treasure on him was an upper-level treasure. The Buddhist robe could block a peak middle-level attack, and it had a 100% defense. However, it could not block the Green Lotus sword song, especially the upper-level holy weapon. Lin Wutian held the divine sword hilt and became one with it. His body exuded a pure sword will. His sword Tao roared, and a green lotus condensed under his feet. He could step on the air and fly like an upper-level cultivator. A flying holy weapon? Zhang Jiuxiao and Zhou Shuguang were shocked. This kind of holy weapon was very difficult to create. Even an eternal one would not want to waste the effort. Therefore, the chances of a flying holy weapon appearing in the world were the same as an eternal one. It was rare. However, they did not know that this was not a flying holy weapon. It was Lin Wutian's sword chi. It had condensed into a substance. Lin Wutian gently moved the sword hilt. The divine sword whistled, and a green rainbow filled the sky. His black hair danced in the sky. "You are a middle-level cultivator. Tell me your name." The Arhat asked coldly. Lin Wutian rode the green lotus and flew into the sky. He said indifferently, "Crazy Sect's second-generation disciple, Lin Wutian. My master is the person you want to kill. However, I think you are not qualified to fight with my master. Take 3 of my moves. If you can't even take 3 of my moves, how can you face my master? My master is insulting himself by attacking you." Lin Wutian's words almost angered the Arhat to death. A dignified Arhat wanted to attack a 9th-level sector lord? He needed to be tested. The key was that the Arhat knew he was not Lin Wutian's opponent. Lin Wutian had no intention of suppressing his realm. Lin Wutian was also a genius. He could compete with him in the same realm. If he was 1 level higher, he would not be his opponent. A middle-level cultivator dares to sneak into the shrouding sky's secret realm. Even if I don't attack, when you leave the secret realm, there will be people who want your life. The Arhat snorted and took a few steps back. Although he did not dare to attack, he still had to save his face. Chapter 1851. The dignified Bodhisattva had been forced back by Yi Qinghan. He hadn't even been able to touch a single hair on Yi Qinghan's body. He was a little angry from embarrassment. He glared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan sat on the purple gold tiger king's back with a beautiful woman in his arms. He smiled at the holy sun and the Arhat, not minding the Arhat's cold gaze at all. At this moment, Lin Wutian was like a loyal guard. He retreated to Yi Qinghan's side and stood with his sword in hand. His eyes were filled with disdain, and his aura suppressed the holy sun. Zhang Jiuxiao and Zhou Shuguang stopped laughing when they saw Lin Wutian's aura. If the Arhat couldn't beat Lin Wutian at his peak, they couldn't either. A middle-level martial artist was a middle-level martial artist after all. Moreover, Lin Wutian was the king of individual soldiers. When the divine sword was unsheathed, who could contend against it? Yi Qinghan was able to make Lin Wutian so respectful. It was unrealistic to say that he was just a person of character and charisma. He must have extraordinary strength. The Arhat and Zhang Jiuxiao finally took a good look at Yi Qinghan's group. Gu Qingyu's aura was faintly discernible. His cold sword Dao was pure and exuded a soaring battle intent. He was like a sharp sword that no one could resist. When the three of them saw Emperor Ye's reincarnated golden body in Yi Qinghan's arms, their expressions changed drastically. Saintess? The holy maiden of the martial Dao perfected cultivator Holy Land. The martial Dao true monarch got his daughters at an old age and doted on them a lot. He once invited all the heroes of the world. The sacred masters of the Holy Lands and eternal sovereigns all came in person. Even the sacred master of the Holy Empire of the Central Earth came and gave the two saintesses some opportunities. As the top powerhouses of the younger generation, how could they not know? The three of them suddenly felt as if they were about to vomit blood. A dignified and favored holy maiden had actually run into someone else's arms. What kind of scandal was this? Emperor Yi giggled as he looked at the three supreme kings snuggled up in Yi Qinghan's arms. If one did not look closely, they would not be so eye-catching. Zhang Jiuxiao stepped forward curiously and stared at Yi Qinghan. His eyes were filled with suspicion. To be able to make a saintess of a generation submit, even an emperor like Lin Wutian has to bow to him. Brother Yi, you must be extraordinary. Did you purposely suppress your cultivation, or are you really a sector lord 9th level? Zhou Shuguang and the Arhat were also staring at Yi Qinghan. They doubted Yi Qinghan's true level. Yi Qinghan laughed and said proudly, Wutian is not bowing to me. As his father, he is showing respect. Don't misunderstand. As for the saintess in my arms, maybe it's because I'm too handsome. It has nothing to do with cultivation. The three supreme kings felt their blood boiling. Their mouths twitched. They were defeated by Yi Qinghan's narcissism. Lin Wutian and Gu Qingyu, who did not like to laugh, were amused. Their grins were pleasing to the eye. However, upon closer inspection, Yi Qinghan was indeed too handsome. He was like a general, leading thousands of experts. His aura was not any weaker than the Saint Child's. The three of you, I want this fire attribute Saint Herb. I wonder if any of you have any objections? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. The three experts' eyes twitched. Yi Qinghan was probably the only person who dared to speak to three sovereigns with such an attitude. Dong dong dong. The hearts of the experts around started to beat faster. Even the beast and bird's heartbeat was out of control. Yi Qinghan looked straight at the fire attribute bird. The true dragon fire essence in his eyes was about to leave his body. It contained a terrifying pressure. He said coldly, Fire attribute flying beast. Not bad. I'll give you one chance. Submit to me, and I'll lead you on the road to becoming a powerful expert. The fire attribute bird was originally disdainful of Yi Qinghan. However, when it saw the true dragon fire essence in his eyes, it realized that it had underestimated Yi Qinghan. How could someone who could control a 16th grade true dragon fire essence be weak? The bird was not angry. It gently waved its fiery red wings. The temperature in the surroundings became violent, causing the space to distort. What qualifications do you have to be my master? The fire attribute bird asked coldly. Yi Qinghan smiled confidently and waved his hand. The 16th grade true dragon fire essence contained the profound mysteries of the fire attribute. He said indifferently, with my ability, I can help you reach the upper level. I can help you reach a realm that you can't reach even if you work hard for a lifetime. The bird's huge mouth was about to spit out flames. It was drooling over the 16th grade true dragon fire essence. There's another reason. It's not convenient to tell you now. As long as you're willing to submit, I won't mistreat you. Yi Qinghan said seriously. I won't sign a master and servant contract with you. It can be a fair cooperation." The bird thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. The three experts looked at the bird in shock. This type of beast normally wouldn't cooperate with humans. It even hated humans. They didn't expect it to be willing to follow Yi Qinghan. The experts from the other factions found it even more unbelievable. A Sector Lord level 9 human actually made a middle-level beast submit. Was he still human? Yi Qinghan's lips curled up. He confidently signaled the bird to fly over. Screech! The firebird let out a long screech. Its wings flapped in the sky. Its pressure directly crushed the purple gold tiger king, causing it to kneel on the mountain peak. 1,000 years later, you will realize how lucky you are to have made this decision. Yi Qinghan looked at the bird indifferently. He didn't seem to be on guard, but his dragon blood was boiling. His body was tense, and he was ready to burst out with his strongest attack. Even if he couldn't kill the middle-level beast, he could at least protect himself. Emperor Yi was also secretly holding on to the defensive treasure given by the martial Dao True Monarch. It wouldn't be a problem for him to block the attack of a middle-level beast. Everyone's hair stood on end. They felt that it was too risky to let a middle-level fire-type beast near. They all stared at Yi Qinghan, wanting to see how he would die in the hands of the bird. Unfortunately, the bird flew to Yi Qinghan's side but didn't attack. Yi Qinghan whispered in his ear, "Green Lotus Sword Song. Great Shang World. With your cultivation, you should understand the meaning of these two words." The giant fire-type bird flapped its wings and stared at Yi Qinghan with its sharp eyes. After a long time, it finally gave up its vigilance and chose to believe in Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and led Emperor Yi onto the back of the bird. Its body emitted a scorching heat, but it didn't affect Yi Qinghan at all. "Bring me to that fire elemental divine herb. This divine herb has yet to take shape. It will take another 10,000 years for it to mature. When that time comes, I will refine it into a pill. You will reach the upper level and transform into a human. It will be just around the corner." Yi Qinghan patted the fire-type bird's head and said confidently, "Screech." The bird carried Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi to the mountain peak. It was very careful and had no intention of killing Yi Qinghan. Lin Wutian heaved a sigh of relief and put down his right hand that was on the sword hilt. The three supreme kings and the other young kings watched Yi Qinghan move the divine medicine away, but they didn't dare to stop him. The crazy sect was now equivalent to 2 middle-level cultivators. No matter how strong the saint or arhat was, they were only lower-level cultivators. It was already impressive that they could reach a draw, let alone Lin Wutian. "Fellow Taoist John, fellow Taoist Swa, I am not someone who makes enemies everywhere. I promise that as long as this fire-type sacred medicine matures and condenses into a pill, the two of you will have a share." Yi Qinghan took the fire-type sacred medicine and said indifferently. Yi Qinghan had given them enough face, so Zhang Jiuxiao and Zhou Shuguang naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to continue arguing with Yi Qinghan. They cupped their fists and thanked him, then many thanks to Sect Master Yi. "Today is Singles Day, so I don't know how to talk. I wish you all a lot of wives and concubines." Chapter 1852. Yi Qinghan promised generously, giving Zhang Jiuxiao and Zhou Shuguang enough face. However, the arhat could no longer keep his face. His cold eyes were filled with cold flames. "Yi Qinghan, you'll regret this," the arhat said fiercely, then quickly left the mountain and returned to the depths. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently as he watched the arhat leave. Zhou Shuguang and Zhang Jiuxiao looked at each other, then bowed and left. The others could not compete with the insane sect. Yi Qinghan left with Emperor Yi and the others. The people of the insane sect were waiting anxiously outside. At this moment, Yi Qinghan stepped on a bird and twisted space like a blazing sun. The purple gold tiger king and the lion king came first with Gu Qingyu and Lin Wutian. The bird brought Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi and slowly descended. Not bad. Not only did we get the top 6th grade fire elemental sacred medicine, but we also got the fire elemental flaming emperor bird. We now have enough resources to protect ourselves. Let's go and fight for resources from the sacred ground. Yi Qinghan said confidently. Everyone cheered. The small sects felt as if their sects had obtained great benefits. That sense of belonging came from their bones. Wu Sheng stared at the purple gold tiger king and said covetously, "Since you have the flaming emperor bird, then give me the purple gold tiger king." Yi Qinghan shrugged as a trace of doting flashed in his eyes. He smiled and said, "Since Shinger likes it, then take it." Yi Qinghan then removed the contract with the purple gold tiger king and signaled for Wu Sheng to form a master-servant contract with it. The purple gold tiger king had no choice but to recognize a new master. The members of the insane sect were not jealous because everyone knew that Wu Sheng was the reincarnation of Bai Shaoxing. Bai Shaoxing was not only Bai Shaoxing, but also Bai Zai's reincarnation. Both of them were Yi Qinghan's true love. Amidst the commotion, everyone was in high spirits. They all wanted to obtain a lower-level mount and looked expectantly at Yi Qinghan. "Let's go deeper. Perhaps we can find better mounts," Yi Qinghan said excitedly. With that, Yi Qinghan stepped onto the flaming bird and looked down from above. This made it easier to find resources. The divine bird brought the star-twining vine across the land. Everywhere it passed, not a single leaf was left behind. The star-twining vine grew stronger and stronger. It was already close to the strength of a lower-level immortal. After devouring so many world overlords and lower-level immortal cultivators, its strength was definitely second only to a lower-level immortal cultivator. In fact, even a lower-level immortal cultivator wouldn't be able to threaten it. Within the depths, tall mountains towered, countless caves and green bamboo lush. There were divine medicines everywhere on the precipitous cliffs and rock walls that had existed for countless years. Roar! The ferocious beasts flew through the air. The strong, ferocious beasts were like agile monkeys shuttling through the mountains. However, they were afraid of the flaming bird's aura and didn't dare to get close to the insane sect's camp. In the depths, even the strong sects had to split up. There was only one person per 30 to 50 miles. They were often attacked by ferocious beasts and suffered heavy casualties. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and looked around. He wanted to find the whereabouts of the people from the sacred grounds. However, the shrouding sky secret realm was so vast. After searching for half a day, he still couldn't find a single shadow. As for the flying celestial medicine that everyone was drooling over, it still hadn't appeared. Just as Yi Qinghan was looking around, he couldn't find what he was looking for. Instead, he found a strange scene. In a mountain range far away, there was a deserted village. The houses were intact. Although they were old, they still stood proudly in the world. The village was surrounded by tall mountains and precipitous ridges with waterfalls falling from the sky. The mountain range was surrounded by cliffs. If one couldn't fly, there was no way to enter this place. He wondered how the village was formed. Wah! Boom! A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky, followed by thunder and heavy rain. Hua hua hua! Da-da-da. The rain fell on the leaves, creating a rustling sound. The mountain path became muddy and very dangerous. There was the danger of falling off the cliff at any time. Roar! The ferocious beast mounts also became restless and roared. Yi Qinghan looked around and found that there was a valley not far away. It was quite big and could be used to set up camp. He quickly led everyone there. "Set up camp here and create a cave for yourselves. We'll talk after the rain stops," Yi Qinghan said. The mountain rocks weren't very hard. It was easy for a sector lord to create a small cave. Everyone pulled out their swords and created a cave. Yi Qinghan comforted Emperor Yi and the rest. After giving some instructions to Lin Wutian and the rest, he rode the flame emperor bird towards the deserted village. Hua-dot-li! The flame emperor bird was as fast as lightning as it pounced towards the mountain range. The bottom of the cliff was deep and the fog blocked their vision. No one could see what was in the depths of the cliff. The rain poured down, but it couldn't get close to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan stared at the deserted village. The rain was pouring and the fog was everywhere. Just as he was in a daze, the flame emperor bird suddenly screamed and lost control of its body. It almost fell off the cliff. Fuck! Yi Qinghan screamed and grabbed one of the flame emperor bird's feathers. His legs trembled and he almost peed himself. "Emperor Bird, what are you doing?" Yi Qinghan was furious. His body was sore and weak. Although he didn't have acrophobia, it was too scary to hang in the air without being able to use any strength. "Boss, it's too scary inside. I'm scared out of my wits. It's better if we don't get too close to this village." The Inferno Emperor Bird's huge body trembled. It hurriedly pulled Yi Qinghan onto its back and said in horror, "Hoo hoo hoo! Dong dong dong." Yi Qinghan still had lingering fear. It wasn't because of the village, but because of the Flame Emperor Bird. His face was pale and his clothes were wet with cold sweat. No one has lived in this village for who knows how many years. What is there to be afraid of? Are you still a mid-level beast? Yi Qinghan asked angrily. "You almost threw me off just now. Why are you so timid?" The Flame Emperor Bird didn't know why, but it felt that this place was a bit scary. Perhaps it was because its eyes could see things that ordinary people couldn't. This desolate place hid some secrets that even mid-level beasts couldn't bear. But Yi Qinghan wanted to take a look. It really didn't know how to refuse. "Coward, put me down in the valley and go back to the other side. Come back and pick me up when I call you." Yi Qinghan saw that the Flame Emperor Bird was so frightened that its body was trembling. He felt a bit helpless, but his curiosity was strong. He really wanted to know how the buildings of the Shang dynasty had survived for countless years without humans living in it. The Flame Emperor Bird steadied its emotions and sent Yi Qinghan to the other side of the valley. Then it turned around and ran like an arrow to the other side. Yi Qinghan sneered and said disdainfully, "We are top-level cultivators. Do you think we are afraid of ghosts? Besides, you also absorbed the essence of heaven and earth to transform into a demon." The Flame Emperor Bird didn't even turn its head and angrily rebuked, "You will regret this." Yi Qinghan curled his lips and looked down at the desolate village from above. It was covered by a layer of mist and was faintly discernible. It looked like a fairyland, but it also had a bit of an ancient charm. It was like a place where an expert lived in seclusion. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Yi Qinghan followed the muddy path to the mountain and walked towards the small mountain village. The mountain path was rugged and ancient trees towered into the clouds. If not for looking from the sky, it would be hard to see that there were actually some old houses here. Chapter 1853. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Raindrops hit the leaves, emitting a gloomy aura. The atmosphere was extremely stifling. However, Yi Qinghan walked deeper into the forest without fear. He was never afraid of demons or ghosts. If there were demons, then he was a demon himself. After walking for about 5 kilometers, Yi Qinghan felt that something was amiss. Finally, he could no longer remain calm. Logically speaking, we should have arrived. Yi Qinghan calculated the time and distance, but he still did not find the abandoned village. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and carved a mark on an ancient tree, then continued walking. However, after walking for an hour, Yi Qinghan realized that he had returned to the tree where he had left his mark. He could not help but rub his nose and say to himself, "It's actually a maze. Interesting." Since Yi Qinghan was unwilling to admit defeat, he was definitely going to enter the abandoned village to see what the buildings were made of. They were actually able to withstand the erosion of time and survive for so long. His spiritual pets had gone with the divine bird. Now Yi Qinghan was truly alone. Since he could not fly, he had to climb the trees. Yi Qinghan quickly arrived at one of the oldest trees in the area. The straight trunk of the tree was 30 feet thick, and it would take at least 10 men to wrap their arms around it. His hands were like suction cups as he continuously climbed up. The 10-meter-tall ancient tree was not a problem for Yi Qinghan. After a while, he reached the top of the tree. However, when he looked around, he was so shocked that he almost fell off the tree. There was no abandoned village around. There were ancient trees and mountains everywhere. Am I seeing things because of my old age? Yi Qinghan rubbed his eyes in disbelief. However, he still could not see the abandoned village. Maybe I didn't climb high enough. Let's go up and take a look, Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. He quickly jumped down from the tree and climbed up a nearby mountain. When they reached the top of the mountain, Yi Qinghan let out a sigh of relief. He thought to himself, sure enough, I didn't climb high enough. I can see the abandoned village from here. Following the steep cliffs, Yi Qinghan approached the village step by step. At the same time, he was calculating the exact location of the village. Less than 3 miles away, he was back in the forest. Yi Qinghan quickly rushed over according to the directions. But after walking for less than an incense stick's worth of time, he finally realized that something was wrong. This was because he had been here before. The surrounding ancient trees all had his markings. I've been playing with formations and maze formations my whole life, and I've actually been confused by a maze formation. Yi Qinghan flew into a rage out of humiliation. He waved his hand to summon 7-foot madness and slashed at an ancient tree in front of him. However, not only did this strike fail to split the ancient tree, it even sent it flying. All it left was a finger-deep scar on the tree bark. If they had to cut down all the trees to get into the village, they probably wouldn't be able to get in by the next year. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to stop using 7-foot madness and start thinking of a new way to get into the village. The formation was formless and completely formed by nature. Or rather, the person who set up the formation defied the heavens and changed his fate. With mountains and rivers as the foundation and stars as the eye of the formation, this kind of formation was basically unbreakable. Unless he understood the mysteries of the formation, he could only rely on flying. Flying. Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. He climbed up the mountain again. Using the ancient tree, he carved out 2 planks that looked like wings. He tied them together with a large number of leaves and then tied them to his back with thin vines. He used his arms as support. I'm smart. This kind of small problem can't stop me. Yi Qinghan was pleased with himself. His thinking was very forward. He had actually made a glider. However, this was very dangerous. If he was not careful, he would fall and become minced meat. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan took a few deep breaths and adjusted his state of mind. He calculated the distance to the village and the wind speed. With a leap, his body glided like a bird soaring through the air. He was so fast that his facial muscles were distorted by the wind. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The glider wings on his back were almost broken. They trembled violently. Yi Qinghan was scared witless. If his wings were broken, he would be crippled. He was getting closer and closer to the village. Looking down from above, he could see that even the houses were engraved with the mysteries of the formation. There were more than 100 houses in total, and they were arranged in an orderly manner like a small town. He was about 30 meters away from the ground. At this height, Yi Qinghan's life was not threatened. He forcefully broke his wings and rushed out of the village with the 7-foot frenzy in his hand. Boom! Yi Qinghan fell to the ground and knelt on one knee. Stone fragments flew in all directions as chi surged in all directions. The village came into view. It was a winding path paved with green stones. There was a stone tablet at the entrance of the village. It seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life. Yi Qinghan walked closer to take a look. The words on the tablet were bold and powerful. They were like dragons that wanted to soar into the sky. The words seemed to be alive. They could come out of the tablet at any time. Ghost Gate Town. It was a terrifying name. The words were written in the language of the Great Shang world. They were different from those of the Eternal world. However, there were some similarities. Moreover, they were pictographic characters. They were easy to recognize. Yi Qinghan's right eye twitched violently. He became increasingly vigilant. He could not help but think to himself, could the Flame Emperor bird be telling the truth? Are there some things that I cannot see? Dong dong dong. Wah wah wah. Yi Qinghan's heart was thumping wildly as he looked around at the quiet and secluded surroundings. The desolate mountain village was covered with thistles and thorns, and the pitter-patter of rain. This place could be considered a fairyland, but at the moment he felt his hair stand on end. Judging by this path, the grass has already grown out. No one should have come here for many years. There can't be any danger. Yi Qinghan's fingertips trembled slightly. It was a panic that came from his bones. Da-da-da. Yi Qinghan stepped on the water and quickly made his way to the village. Every building was a courtyard house. There were stone statues of dragons and tigers at the entrance. They were still standing even now. The materials used must be very special. Weeds had grown out of the stone steps, sealing the door. Yi Qinghan swung his heavy maniac to cut the weeds and open a path. He pushed open the first house. The courtyard was empty. Spiderwebs covered the entire roof. The house was in a mess, as if it had been attacked by bandits. Rubble was everywhere. It was very miserable. Screech. Screech. Some of the mutated bats let out shrill cries and quickly rushed out of the house. There were many of them. They all rushed towards Yi Qinghan. With a thought, Yi Qinghan covered his body with flames and forced the mutated bats back. Is anyone there? Yi Qinghan looked at the empty courtyard house. Although he knew that there was no one, he still subconsciously shouted, "One!" The echo echoed in the courtyard. It was particularly frightening. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose. He was not afraid at first. However, after being frightened by the flame emperor bird, he panicked. He held his heavy maniac and slowly walked in. Crack crack. A piece of rotten wood was crushed. Yi Qinghan stepped into the main house. The walls had collapsed and there was no wind. There were only a few corners where some spiritless beasts lived. There were weeds everywhere. It was desolate and uninhabited. It seemed that no one had come here for millions of years. Yi Qinghan slowly searched. Suddenly, a strange sound startled him. It sounded like the sound of bones breaking. Yi Qinghan abruptly looked down and saw a sinister skeleton. It was the skeleton of a human. The flesh had already decayed, but the skeleton exuded a profound aura. Due to the ravages of time, it had already decayed to the point where it couldn't even withstand a single kick. Chapter 1854. A dead person. Yi Qinghan's pupils constricted as he used gravity craze to peel the skeleton out. He found that the skeleton was holding a flute and there was a jade pendant at the waist with the word "battle" carved on it. Battle race. Yi Qinghan frowned and searched carefully. He found that even the storage ring had decayed over time. It dissipated with a light touch. The treasures inside were naturally not preserved. Other than the flute and the jade pendant, nothing else was preserved. He could only guess that this person was from the battle race. Yi Qinghan slowly squatted down and carefully examined the skeleton. However, he could not determine what had killed this person. The skeleton had no injuries. Other than the broken leg that he had just stepped on, everything else was intact. How could this be? According to the charm of this skeleton, this person should be at least in the lower realm. It can't be that he died so strangely, right? Yi Qinghan stared at the skeleton and muttered to himself. He then reached out to pick up the jade pendant and flute. When the jade pendant entered his hand, there was a cool feeling. It even had the effect of calming the soul. However, the flute emitted a trace of evil energy, as if it was being targeted by a demon. Hua! Yi Qinghan quickly turned his head. However, there was nothing around him. Dong dong dong. Yi Qinghan's heartbeat sped up involuntarily. It was as if a little deer was pounding against his heart. This strange feeling shrouded Yi Qinghan's heart. He had no choice but to take out the Rui bell and hold it tightly in his hand. The pure Buddhist mystery shrouded it and drove away evil energy. Filthy things could not get close to him. Only then did the strange feeling lessen slightly. When Yi Qinghan gently shook the Rui bell, the sound of the bell reverberated in all directions. 1. The sound of the bell hit the surrounding mountains and reverberated incessantly. It was as if 10,000 Buddhas were chanting sutras. It was incomparably tragic. Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. He looked down at the skeleton beneath his feet and clasped his hands together. He said seriously, "Senior, I did not mean to destroy your skeleton. I hope you can forgive me. It's better for me to bury you here than in the wilderness." Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan brought the skeleton to the courtyard. With a wave of his hand, he quickly dug a deep hole and placed the skeleton inside. Then, he covered the hole with soil and carved a simple tombstone with the words, "Tomb of the Nameless." Following which, Yi Qinghan quickly searched through the other rooms, but there was nothing special. However, this place was very strange. Even the table had been preserved to this day, and the items on it were in perfect condition. It was as though time had stopped, and it was also as though a village had traveled through time and arrived here. Yi Qinghan continued to search for other courtyards. Yi Qinghan searched through more than half of the nearly 100 courtyards and found that most of them were the same. There was nothing too surprising about them. His hanging heart gradually relaxed. I'm just scaring myself. This place has been deserted for so many years. What strange things could there be? Yi Qinghan muttered to himself, shaking his head and smiling bitterly. Suddenly, the largest courtyard house in the middle caught his attention. Yi Qinghan came to the courtyard and saw a plaque hanging under the eaves. On it were the words, Supreme Residence. The words were exactly the same as the words, Ghost Town, at the entrance of the village. It was majestic and majestic, as if it wanted to swallow the mountains and rivers. How strange. A small village would actually have such a domineering name. How many kings and saintesses do not dare to call themselves self-respecting? There is actually someone in this village who dares to hang the Supreme Residence at the entrance. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a smile. His eyes looked at the sculptures on both sides. Suddenly, his smile froze and his expression changed abruptly. The sculptures on both sides of this courtyard were different from others. The stone sculpture on the left was actually the original body of the White Fan clan. The sculpture on the left was a never-before-seen mythical beast. It was vivid and lifelike, and its aura was overwhelming. It was as if it had come alive and could shatter the heavens at any time. The White Fan represented fate. Fate guarded the residence. The other mythical beast represented strength. This meant that the owner of this residence had the strength to control the mountains and rivers. He also had the fate to control the mountains and rivers. His aura was not something a normal supreme could compare to. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and looked at the entrance of the residence. He really wanted to push the door open and take a look. Boom! Yi Qinghan lightly stepped forward. His heartbeat suddenly accelerated. The flute in his left hand vibrated, and evil energy shot out in all directions. A faintly discernible black thread wrapped around his wrist. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He wanted to throw the flute away, but he could not do so. It was as if it was stuck. Damn! Yi Qinghan cursed. His left hand was enveloped in flames. He wanted to refine the flute, but a cool feeling came from the flute. It actually blocked out the true dragon fire marrow, and was unable to harm it at all. Wah! The 16th grade true dragon fire marrow could burn anything, but it was unable to harm the flute. It could be seen how terrifying the material of the flute was. This flute was probably not an ordinary object. Boom! The door of the Supreme Residence opened with a bang and slammed into the wall. It was as if it had slammed into Yi Qinghan's heart. The shock caused him to bleed from his orifices. Especially his heart. It hurt so much that he almost fainted. Dong dong dong. Yi Qinghan's heart raced as he stared into the depths of the sovereign residence. It was dark and gloomy, and the rain was pouring down, obscuring his vision. But before he could even react, the flute in his hand dragged him toward the sovereign residence. Fuck, did I meet a ghost? Yi Qinghan screamed. He fiercely shook the wishful bell in his hand. The bell rang, and Buddhist light enveloped his golden body. Amitabha, immeasurable deity. I don't believe in gods. But now I do. You two supreme eternal sovereigns, help me take this flute away. Yi Qinghan's expression changed. But an unshakable force came from his left arm and dragged him into the Supreme Residence. Boom! The Supreme Residence's door was sealed. Only then did Yi Qinghan feel that the flute in his hand was no longer dragging him forward. However, there was still a force pulling him into the depths of the residence. The courtyard was overgrown with weeds. The spiritual energy was oppressive, but it was also filled with an awe-inspiring aura that made people tremble with fear. Suddenly, Yi Qinghan's heart was struck by lightning. He thought about how the battle clansman's eyes had sunk in and his 5 fingers were tightly clenched. This situation had a fatal similarity with his current situation. Immediately, he was enlightened. He guessed the cause of the battle clansman's death. He was scared to death? Impossible! Yi Qinghan cried out in fear. What kind of situation could scare a saint-child-level king to death? Looking at the deep residence, Yi Qinghan felt that it was even more terrifying than looking at hell. He finally did not want to investigate this place any further. He involuntarily retreated until he reached the entrance. He reached out his hand to pull the door lock, but it did not budge. He could not help but be furious. Boom! Yi Qinghan swung his palm at the door. However, the door shot out rays of light in all directions. It directly sent him flying and he fell heavily into the courtyard. Pooh! Yi Qinghan seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. His face turned pale. He now understood that he was trapped. If he wanted to leave, he had to enter the supreme residence. Chapter 1855. The fearless Yi Qinghan was finally scared. His face was pale and his limbs were trembling. Gotcha! Yi Qinghan had just taken a step when he heard the sound of bones breaking coming from the weeds. He gently pried open the weeds and saw another corpse. It was unknown how long the corpse had been dead. The corpse had already decayed and there was no indication of its identity. Phew! Yi Qinghan exhaled a turbid breath. He looked at the deep and dark passageway and slowly walked towards the first row of rooms. It is better to believe in oneself than in gods. In such a situation, I can only help myself. Calm down, calm down. Yi Qinghan held the rui bell. His eyes were like lightning as he muttered to himself, "My young energy is exuberant. With the true dragon fire essence in my body, filthy things will not dare to come near me." Yi Qinghan was emboldening himself. As someone who did not believe in ghosts and gods, he was indeed panicking. This place was too strange. Even a room could trap him as though it was alive. He had never seen such an official residence before. Such boldness was useless because the flute continued to entangle him, shrouding him in an evil aura. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips as he slowly opened a room. He found that everything in the room had not been eroded by time. It was as though time had been frozen in this place. Ancient books, a desk, pills, pill formulas, refining techniques, astrology, almost everything was there, and every single one of them was priceless. However, Yi Qinghan did not touch any of them. This place was not like the other blessed paradises. This junior did not mean to come here and disturb the senior's rest. Please do not blame me. If possible, senior, please let me out. I will never step in again. Yi Qinghan muttered. Unfortunately, there was no response. The room was so quiet that it made one's hair stand on end. Sigh, Yi Qinghan sighed. He searched carefully and then left the room. He searched several rooms in a row. They were either resting rooms or kitchens. There was nothing special about them. However, the flute continued to drag him forward. Half a day later, he finally arrived at a solitary courtyard. Yi Qinghan pushed open the door and entered. The courtyard was very clean, as if someone had just cleaned it up. There was not even a single blade of grass. The immortal peach trees had grown for countless years, and the peach blossoms had fallen. Even the fruits had fallen to the ground, leaving only a few peach pits. A pavilion was located at the front right of the room. There was a table and a few stone stools. It was very simple, but it had the beauty of simplicity. The table was still as clean as if it had been washed. It didn't look like it had been abandoned for thousands of years. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but feel his hair stand on end. He thought to himself, could it be that someone really lives here? Junior Yi Qinghan has come to pay a visit. Is senior in? His crisp voice reverberated in the courtyard, but there was still no reply. The slender flute suddenly let out a hurried sound. It was short and hurried, deafening, but very pleasing to the ear. It was as if an immortal was playing the flute, melodious and pleasant to the ear. Yi Qinghan was startled. He looked at the flute in his hand. It was made from ordinary bamboo. There was nothing special about it. How could it have such great magical power? Could it be that I was mistaken? This isn't ordinary bamboo? Yi Qinghan was secretly startled. The sound of the flute just now almost made him lose his soul. He lowered his head to look at the flute, then looked up at the old house opposite him. It was as clean as if it had been washed. It wasn't like the other houses that were filled with weeds and spiderwebs. There seemed to be someone living in this courtyard. Time seems to be restricted here. Yi Qinghan looked around and found something strange. The corner of his eye twitched. He thought to himself, could it be that my right eye has been twitching recently because of this? Rustle, rustle, rustle. Yi Qinghan lifted his foot and walked towards the main house. Just as he stepped onto the steps, crack, boom! Lightning tore through the darkness. The sound of thunder was deafening. Soon after, the sky was filled with dark clouds. There wasn't even a ray of light. Yi Qinghan was alarmed. It was as if the heavens were warning him not to enter this room. But if he didn't enter, he couldn't leave. Reality forced him to go in and see what was going on. A terrifying sound came from the ancient door. The door opened and the room was dark and deep. It was like the entrance to hell. It was so dark that he couldn't see anything at all. Thump, thump, thump. Rustle, rustle, rustle. There was only the sound of Yi Qinghan's heartbeat and the sound of the heavy rain hitting the roof and treetops. Yi Qinghan waved his hand, trying to control the flames to illuminate the room. But he couldn't control the flames. This was the elemental origin that he was best at. Having lost the ability to control the fire origin, Yi Qinghan couldn't bear it. Fear shrouded his heart. Yi Qinghan groped around. His eyes were like torches. After a long time, he got used to the darkness. Finally, he could see a table. There was a candlestick on the table. The candle was only burning a little. There was a flint beside the candlestick. Yi Qinghan quickly struck the flint and lit the candle on the candlestick. The weak candlelight flickered in the wind and rain. Yi Qinghan quickly closed the door. When he turned his head, he was stunned. The room was very simple. On the right-hand side was a screen. On the screen was a peerless beauty. It was so lifelike that it looked like she could walk out of the screen at any moment. Yi Qinghan carefully sized up the beauty on the screen. She was dressed in white and her hair was as black as ink. Her beautiful eyes seemed to be able to speak. They were more beautiful than the stars and deeper than a black hole. Her exquisite face was like the work of God. It was as if it had been created by the Creator over countless years. It was already flawless. Any woman in front of her would feel ashamed of their inferiority. Even men didn't dare to look at her directly. Thump, thump, thump. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. His heart was beating faster and faster. He sized her up from top to bottom. The loose robe covered her perfect figure. But when he saw her slender and fair hands, Yi Qinghan nearly fainted. The woman was holding a flute in her hand. It was the flute in Yi Qinghan's hands. As expected, this flute doesn't belong to that battle race clansman. It's something from this courtyard. That battle race clansman came to this courtyard before. He was scared to death. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself as he carefully stared at the screen. There were several paintings of the woman doing different things. Some of them were playing the flute, while others were of her practicing her sword. The sword moves were so familiar. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He realized that she was playing the Green Lotus Sword Song. No, it could be said that she was creating the Green Lotus Sword Song. The Green Lotus Sword Song was created by a woman? Yi Qinghan suddenly exploded. Such a powerful sword move was actually created by a woman. She had once killed an eternal being. Yi Qinghan's hands were trembling. After seeing the screen clearly, he continued looking up. There was a wooden sword hanging on it. It contained endless vicissitudes of life, as if it possessed a spirit. It was as if it had been used as a blood sacrifice by countless living beings for countless years. It had long possessed life. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was truly afraid. There was no life in this ancient residence. Who would use blood as a sacrifice to this wooden sword? He couldn't help but be afraid of the scene here. Perhaps even a middle-level cultivator would be afraid. Just as Yi Qinghan turned his head to look at the other things in the room, the woman behind the screen actually moved. It was as if she could really walk out of the screen. A cold wind swept across his spine. Yi Qinghan quickly turned his head, but he didn't find anything. He couldn't help but feel cold all over as if he had fallen into an ice cave. We are from a small region known as the Land of Sinners. Finally, Green Lotus Sword Immortal's eyes were no longer cold and emotionless. It would appear that she was filled with hatred towards Eternal World. Yi Qinghan breathed a sigh of relief. There was finally no barrier between him and Green Lotus Sword Immortal. Green Lotus Sword Immortal was finally willing to talk. Since your disciple can comprehend the Green Lotus Sword song, we can be considered to be fated. I will tell you the truth. As long as you leave the Supreme Residence, you will die. You will have no chance of escaping. The curse was set up by the sacred master of the Central Plains and the Lord of Hell. Can your soul be stronger than so many eternal sovereigns? Green Lotus Sword Immortal asked coolly. Yi Qinghan's body shuddered and a chill enveloped his heart. What grudge do they have with you? Why would they want to put you in such a state of death and set up such a vicious curse? Yi Qinghan asked in shock. Hearing Yi Qinghan's words, Green Lotus Sword Immortal laughed loudly. A bunch of ants want to pry into the heavenly Tao and become eternal immortals. Disregarding life, they fused countless small regions and great worlds together. What a joke! Green Lotus Sword Immortal sneered, and her face, which seemed to have been crafted by the gods, became somewhat ferocious. Immortal? There are eternal immortals in this world? Eternal immortals are not eternal immortals? Yi Qinghan asked in surprise. Green Lotus Sword Immortal was somewhat confused and she mumbled, Eternal Sovereign, perhaps that is the end. That is already eternal. Boom. The rain had only just stopped when lightning and thunder descended once more, causing the world to tremble. It was as though the heavenly Tao was enraged and a heavenly punishment was descending. Chapter 1860. As time passed, the chains made eerie noises. The lightning became more violent, and the thunder shook the world as if the world was about to change. Yi Qinghan was also very nervous. No matter how big of a disaster this woman would cause, at least he could survive and the sect could continue. The lives of others had nothing to do with him. At the bottom of the well, the colorful snake tore off 4 talisman papers and found that the chains that locked the limbs of the corpse were fastened with buttons. As long as the talisman papers were torn off, the buttons could be opened. The 4 buttons were not difficult to open. The colorful snake was very smart. It could open such simple buttons, but after opening one, it immediately closed it again, afraid that the chains would fall and wake the person who set up the array. Soon, all 4 buttons were opened. The corpse floated in the black filth. The chains did not fall, but the corpse had left. The colorful snake wrapped around the corpse's waist and quickly rushed up. Boom, boom, whoosh. The well water surged, and the stench filled the air. But at this moment, the Green Lotus Sword Fairy's aura soared. It was as if her suppressed soul had finally returned. A pure sword aura pierced through the sky, and Yi Qinghan fell to his knees under the pressure. Boom. Yi Qinghan could not stand up even if he wanted to. This had nothing to do with his state of mind. This woman was too scary. A green lotus appeared on her forehead. It was so holy that no one dared to look at it directly. The Green Lotus Sword Fairy was no longer suppressed. Her soul returned to its original position. She no longer looked cold but more like a fairy. After a while, the Green Lotus Sword Fairy withdrew her aura. Yi Qinghan was now drenched in cold sweat. His face was pale and he could only stand up now. Gulp. Yi Qinghan looked up at the Green Lotus Sword Fairy and could not help but gulp. This woman was too evil. In her eyes, she was more like a demon than a fairy. The Green Lotus Sword Fairy was extremely beautiful. Her eyes were even more beautiful, and her soul was as pure as a fairy. Yi Qinghan did not dare to look at her directly. He felt that it was blasphemy. It was disrespectful to the beautiful sword fairy. Dong dong dong. Yi Qinghan did not know what he was feeling. His heart was beating uncontrollably, and it was beating extremely fast. There was nervousness, adoration, and also fear. Several emotions were intertwined, and he could not control himself at all. Green Lotus Sword Immortal stared at the mouth of the well with excitement. Feeling his body slowly approaching, he was wild with joy. He reached out and grabbed Yi Qinghan's large hand, saying excitedly, "Your godly pet brought my body up. Pa, I don't know how many years it has been. I've already lost all hope. I didn't think that there would still be a chance." Chapter 1862. The courtyard was quiet and secluded. A ray of golden sunlight sprinkled down. It was so beautiful. Green Lotus Sword Immortal was incomparably heartless. The light in her beautiful eyes was even more terrifying. Yi Qinghan looked at Green Lotus Sword Immortal's eyes. Anger surged from the bottom of his heart. It was as if he had been betrayed. He had helped her with good intentions, but she had killed him. "Are you joking with me?" Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and asked. Green Lotus Sword Immortal retorted, "Do you think I'm joking? You don't have much time left. If you don't speak, I won't give you another chance." Yi Qinghan flew into a rage out of humiliation. He pointed at Green Lotus Sword Immortal. He didn't care about her cultivation level. Since he was going to die, he had to scold her to his heart's content. He directly scolded, "No wonder they used such a vicious method to deal with you. A scum like you repaid kindness with enmity. You deserve to die. I must have been blind to save you. I've been here with you for 1,000 years. Even if you raised a dog, you should have feelings for it after 1,000 years. What's more, I'm a dragon among men. Are you blind? Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're beautiful. I'm not afraid of you. Are you very holy? When I was bathing you, I used my mind to rape you 100 times. 100 times. If you want to kill me, then kill me. 18 years later, you'll be a good man again." Yi Qinghan vented all the anger in his heart. His face was red and his eyes had a trace of evil. He coldly stared at Green Lotus Sword Immortal. Green Lotus Sword Immortal's face turned red from the scolding. Her killing intent grew even stronger. It was as if she was thinking of how to torture Yi Qinghan to vent the hatred in her heart. Yi Qinghan discovered that her killing intent was growing stronger. Before he died, he scolded again. "Do you think that because you're an eternal sovereign, the whole world should be afraid of you? I respect you because you're an eternal sovereign. If I don't respect you, I'm nothing. What's wrong with me bathing you? Wasn't it to save you? You're a dog-biting Lu Dongbin. You don't know how to appreciate kindness. I didn't say I wouldn't take responsibility. Do you have to kill me?" Keek, Green Lotus Sword Fairy clenched her teeth and her jade-like hands trembled. She had never been so angry before. When she was surrounded by countless experts, she only felt hatred. But now she was truly angry. The anger of being provoked by an ant. Boom! Green Lotus Sword Immortal placed her jade-like hand on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Although she seemed powerless, she had already imprisoned the Tao arts in all directions. She directly pressed Yi Qinghan's body to his knees in front of her. Bang! Yi Qinghan's knees hit the ground hard. The ground did not shatter, but his knees felt as if they had been hit hard. Yi Qinghan screamed miserably.